When comparing Super Saiyan 2 Gohan during the Cell games to Majin Vegeta during the Buu Saga, the matchup is more complicated than it might initially seem. Both are Super Saiyan 2s, both have their emotional breaking points, and both are at peak versions of their respective characters at that time. But who actually comes up on top? If you enjoy conversations like this and want to take deeper part in discussions such as this nature, I highly encourage you to join the Dragon Ball HQ Discord server, link below in the description. We'll be diving into this topic more over there. Now, without further delay, let's begin. Let's start with Gohan during the Cell games. This is the first time we see a Super Saiyan 2 transformation in the series, and it's not subtle. His power skyrockets to the point where even Perfect Cell, someone who was casually handling Super Saiyans moments earlier, is completely overwhelmed. Gohan shatters the Cell Juniors with a single blow, each characters who were giving trouble to the likes of Vegeta, Trunks, and even Goku. And once he gets serious, Cell himself is manhandled. Gohan even tanks a point-blank Kamehameha with one arm and still wins the beam struggle after being injured, further showing just how dominant he was. However, there's a catch. Gohan's downfall was his own overconfidence. After transforming, he becomes passive and cocky, allowing Cell to self-destruct and nearly cost everyone their lives. He only gets serious again after Goku's death, and even then, his injuries and emotional state weaken him. Still, even at a fraction of his strength, he manages to defeat Cell, who had powered up even further after regenerating. Now, let's move on to Majin Vegeta. At this point in the story, Vegeta has accepted Babidi's magic for the sole purpose of surpassing Goku. It grants him a boost in power, but more importantly, it removes the mental blocks that held him back. The Majin boost is hard to quantify precisely, but it clearly puts Vegeta on par with Super Saiyan 2 Goku, who himself trained for 7 years after the Cell games, and Goku even says during their fight that neither of them is holding back. So if Majin Vegeta is relative to Super Saiyan 2 Goku, and Goku is considerably stronger than he was during the Cell games, then logically Majin Vegeta should be more powerful than Gohan was back then, right? Well, it's not that straightforward. One of the first things we need to establish when discussing this fight is the significant power discrepancy often associated with Gohan and versus debates. For this comparison, we're focusing solely on Gohan during the Cell games right when he first achieved Super Saiyan 2, and that includes the rage-boosted version of Gohan. Now, it's important to clarify that there is a distinction between Gohan's regular Super Saiyan 2 form and the version powered up by emotional outbursts. This isn't a fan theory or speculative headcanon. In both the original manga and the Daizenshuu guidebooks, Gohan's rage power is referenced as something independent of his normal battle strength. This means the amplified energy he displayed during the transformation was an additional surge, not part of his base Super Saiyan 2 level. To really grasp just how powerful this rage-boosted version of Gohan was, we can look ahead 7 years into the Buu Saga. During this arc, DetBird is introduced and described by Goku as being much stronger than Cell. And this isn't just any version of Cell Goku is referring to, it's Super Perfect Cell, the one Gohan defeated at the climax of the Cell games. The reason we can be confident about this is because Goku witnessed and sent Super Perfect Cell firsthand, so there's no ambiguity about who he's referencing. The surrounding dialogue makes it clear that if Gohan still possessed the same level of power during that moment when defeating Dabura wouldn't be a problem. However, since he hadn't maintained his training over those 7 years, his strength had diminished in that regard. Some argue that Goku might be referring to the Perfect Cell, the one before the Zenkai revival, but that interpretation doesn't quite hold up unless you're arguing Cell could beat Dabura, and that's a completely different video for a completely different debate. Moreover, Dabura is shown to have a fairly even fight with Buu Saga Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, which tells us something important. Even without his full potential, Gohan in Super Saiyan 2 is still significantly stronger than Cell. But at the same time, he falls short of the peak he reached during the Cell games due to one key difference: his rage. Both Goku and Vegeta in the official guide notes that Gohan lost his intensity emotional burst, meaning that Buu era Gohan is operating without the same firepower that he once had. All of this gives us a clear picture of just how formidable Gohan was during the Cell games. His power left such a lasting impression that he's still brought up by the main cast years later. In fact, when Majin Buu was first revived, Gohan remarks that if he still had the strength he once did, he likely could have been able to stop Buu on the spot. Goku seemingly echoes this sentiment by stating that when Gohan fights while truly enraged, there's virtually no one that can stand against him. It's also heavily implied that Vegeta, even after training intensely for 7 years, wasn't able to close the gap between him and Gohan, even after getting Super Saiyan 2, at least before the Majin Ant. When evaluating Majin Vegeta, one of the first things to address is how much stronger he became compared to his standard Super Saiyan 2 form prior to receiving the Majin boost. A good point of reference comes from the anime filler where Goku, even in his base form, is shown pushing back a weighted Pikkon, something even Super Perfect Cell couldn't do, since he was swiftly taken out by Pikkon. This highlights the kind of strength characters like Goku were achieving post-Cell games. Now, why this matters is because Majin Vegeta is being portrayed as on par with Super Saiyan 2 Goku during their fight. In fact, many fans argue that Majin Vegeta may have even had the upper hand. The Majin enhancement, as seen with characters like Spopovich and Yamu, is no small boost. It dramatically amplifies physical strength, durability, and flexibility. This enhancement allowed Vegeta to close the gap between himself and Goku, who had the advantage of training relentlessly for 7 years in Otherworld, without the limitations of a mortal body, and had the opportunity to spar against some of the most powerful warriors in existence. Vegeta's boost was so impressive that it led to the direct comparison between him and Gohan, sparking the ongoing debate about who was stronger at the time. There are two specific moments where Gohan's strength is brought up relative to Majin Vegeta. The first is when Goku transforms into Super Saiyan 2 and Vegeta acknowledges that Goku had finally surpassed Gohan at his peak, a clear sign of just how strong Gohan once was. This also implies that prior to that moment, Vegeta didn't consider himself, or possibly even Goku, stronger than Gohan during the Cell games, even after Goku unleashed Super Saiyan 2 when fighting Yakon. Another instance occurs earlier when Vegeta is still on board Babidi's ship. At that point, before gauging Goku's full power, he remarks that Gohan has grown soft due to peace and likely hasn't kept up with his training, leading Vegeta to believe that he himself may now be stronger. This comparison, of course, doesn't take into account Gohan's former rage-boosted strength, which he has no longer possessed by the time of the Buu Saga. Vegeta is instead comparing Gohan's current Super Saiyan 2 form in the Buu Saga, demonstrated in the tournament, to his own. If you guys want to see Gohan versus Vegeta before he becomes Majin, let me know in the comment section down below. I think it actually would be a better fight. A pivotal moment in this debate comes during Majin Vegeta's battle with Buu, where Piccolo, observing the fight, remarks that Vegeta appears to be just as strong as Gohan was during the Cell games, possibly even stronger. This statement helped spark the long-standing debate about who would come up on top, Super Saiyan 2 Gohan from the Cell games or Majin Vegeta. As the title implies, this is a close matchup, and no matter which side you lean towards, there's a valid argument to be made. However, based on the information we have, it seems Majin Vegeta edges out in this matchup, and there are several reasons for that. To start, Vegeta himself acknowledges that Goku had surpassed the power Gohan displayed against Cell, and Goku in turn confirms that Vegeta is equal to him in strength. Supporting this further, Trunks comments that when Goku fights Buu as a Super Saiyan 2, his power feels on par with Vegeta's. All these statements create a consistent narrative where Goku and Vegeta in the Buu Saga are at least on the same level, or stronger than Gohan was during his peak in the Cell games. Piccolo's observation can be interpreted in two ways: either Vegeta is on par with Gohan's strength or he surpassed it. Regardless of which interpretation you lean towards, both align with the previous mentioned character statements. While Goku does tell Gohan that if he gets angry no one can beat him, this seems more like motivational encouragement rather than an objective power assessment. After all, Goku has seen firsthand how Gohan's power surges when enraged, as it was the key to defeating Cell. However, it's important to note that at the time, Gohan's opponent wasn't Buu, but DetBird, and even Gohan himself, someone who understands his limits better than anyone, didn't believe he could defeat Buu, even if he tapped into his rage again. This is telling, especially considering this is the same Majin Buu that Majin Vegeta was holding his own against before Buu powered up further. Also, if we were to be generous to Gohan and brought them at the same strength, Gohan is only that strong because of his rage boost. Over time, as Gohan becomes more docile and not so enraged, his power would diminish, whereas Majin Vegeta's would remain that same strength all throughout. Not to mention that Vegeta's body is also much more durable. So while it's debatable, I think Majin Vegeta takes the victory here, making this fight very close.